So about One Piece backstories. A few weeks ago I made a video about backstories in One Piece, specifically the backstories of all the Straw Hats. I went through each of their backstories in a summary, and I ranked them all. I think my rankings of them are pretty fair. The crew has a diverse range of backstories, so some choices were pretty easy to make. Having Usopp be on the end of good backstories was pretty obvious, as well as Luffy surprisingly. I mean, he didn't have a great childhood. He was raised by bandits and stuff, so not really the best environment, but he was a lot better off than most of the crew. But for others like Jinbei or Robin for example came pretty close. I have been thinking it over, and I think that the list could use some revision, because looking back at it now, I wasn't being fair to some of the characters, particularly for Franky. I honestly came to the conclusion that Franky has the worst backstory in the series, or at least one of the worst. So that's why I wanted to talk about today, not just the Straw Hats, but backstories in general in the One Piece story, and which ones are the worst ones. Before that though, like and subscribe for future content. When I ranked Franky in the other video, he was in the middle area of the Straw Hats. He wasn't in too good of a spot or too bad of a spot relative to the other Straw Hats. He was right in the center of it. But when I was thinking about it, Franky's is a lot worse than the rest of the Straw Hats. Sure, Robin's island may have been buster called and destroyed in front of her. Sure, Brook spent 50-ish years on a boat with his crew's corpses. But Franky is the worst in my opinion, for one reason and one reason only. My guy got ran over by a train head on. It wasn't like he got caught in it or anything, like he just happened to be there at the wrong time. He took the brunt of a max speed train head on. You can imagine his body being pretty mangled and busted after all of that. But on top of that, he had to modify his body while in that mangled state. He already would be hurting from the train he tried to stop earlier, which I honestly have no idea why he did that. You would expect a guy who works with machines and stuff to know that you can't stop a train by putting your hands out in front of it. But yeah, he had to repair his own body after being ran over, without using any painkillers or anything to dull the pain. Just imagining have to go through all of that makes me cringe honestly. I would take any of the other characters' backstories over Franky's, just for that reason. Actually, it might be debatable if Brook's is worse than Franky's, because having to go through what Brook did would probably make most people suicidal. I mean, if it was guaranteed that I would survive the train, I might take Franky's over Brook's. But then again, I don't want to take a train to the face. I would rather have a quick death over spending decades alone with the corpses of my friends. It's pretty remarkable that Franky came out of that unscathed. I mean, half his body is gone, but I mean mentally wise. Franky seems really not at all bothered by the fact that he got ran over by a train. He's one of the most energetic characters in the story. Brook is also an energetic character, but his is more of a sadder type of energetic. Brook has a personality that he has now because he used it to cope with his loneliness. He had no one to speak or interact with while he was in the Bermuda Triangle, so he started to talk to himself and eventually made jokes about himself. He made self-deprecating humor about himself because that was the only thing to even talk about. His comedy comes from a really dark backstory, and it's pretty sad to think about. Where on the other hand, Franky is just being Franky. He doesn't have any trauma at all from the looks of it. I mean, he's 36, so it's been a while since that all happened, but still, I would think that would leave some sort of lingering effect on a person. I'm pretty surprised that part of his backstory was kinda glossed over. I mean, I guess time will be a main focus of Franky's backstory, since that was his father figure basically, and the one who taught him to create things, as well as being the shipwright for the king of the pirates. But they went over the part of Franky getting ran over pretty quickly. I can't think of any other backstories in the same category as Franky or Brook. I mean, there are other sad backstories out there, like Sanji's or Chopper's or Robin's, but they don't really compare to Franky or Brook in my opinion. If I had to put them in a tier list, at the top would be Franky and Brook in S tier, and then the others in like A, B, C tier. Like when I think of Sanji's or any other character's backstories, I can sympathize with them. I feel bad for what their situation was and see how it affects their daily lives. But when I think of Brook's or Franky's, it's like I internalize it. Like I imagine myself being on that boat with only the sound of the waves, having no idea if I'll ever get off the boat or see another person. I can't imagine being there for the next 50 years with no help and nothing to do, or being faced down by a train head on, coming at me with no intentions of stopping. Not to downplay what the others went through or anything, but whenever I imagine Franky's or Brook's backstories, they make the others pale in comparison for me. I guess if there was a third place, I would say Law. Being a kid with an incurable disease and being told that you will die is also pretty terrifying. But yeah, that is pretty much all I had to say. If you enjoyed, like and subscribe for future content. Peace.